Boomatheyam like a wildfire, consuming the villagers' hearts with terror. The rhythmic pulse of daily life, the soothing sounds of laughter and chatter were silenced, replaced by a chilling stillness broken only by the frantic beating of drums.
Pauses, then speaks with determination. Dasa, his hand resting on Dole's massive head, felt a surge of protectiveness wash over him. Fear, sharp and cold, pricked at his skin, but it was quickly overtaken by a fierce determination to protect his home, his family, his people. Dole, sensing his companion's resolve, let out a low growl, a rumble that echoed Dasa's own determination.
The villagers, their faces ashen, their eyes wide with a primal terror that harkened back to a time when humans were not the apex predators, gathered in the center of Boomatheyam. The elders, their wrinkled faces etched with the wisdom of generations past, conferred in hushed tones, their voices barely audible above the frantic beating of drums.
Quietly to himself, "We can do this, Dole. We have to."
Dasa, his hand never leaving Dole's side, watched as the village elder, his weathered face etched with concern, raised his hands, silencing the fearful whispers that snaked through the crowd. His voice, when he spoke, was strong, steady, cutting through the fear that threatened to consume them. "My people!" the elder boomed, his voice echoing through the hushed gathering. "We are faced with a grave threat. Gronk, the beast we thought we had tamed, has revealed his true nature." His words hung heavy in the air, thick with a mixture of fear and resignation. Dasa, his gaze fixed on the elder, felt a weight settle upon his shoulders, a responsibility that extended beyond his years. He was no longer just a boy, a dreamer who walked with a dinosaur by his side. He was a protector, a shield against the storm that threatened to engulf his world. "We must hunt," the elder continued, his voice unwavering. "Hunt as our ancestors did before us. We must bring down this beast before it brings ruin upon us all." His words, though laced with a grim determination, sparked a flicker of hope in the eyes of the villagers. The men of Boomatheyam, their faces etched with a mixture of fear and resolve, stepped forward, their spears held high. They were hunters, their skills honed over generations, their courage tested in the crucible of the wild. But even their bravery seemed insufficient against the threat that Gronk posed. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, knew what he had to do. He stepped forward, his chin held high, Dole's massive form a reassuring presence beside him.
"I will hunt Gronk." Pauses, then continues with more conviction. "I will hunt Gronk."
A collective gasp arose from the villagers, their eyes widening in disbelief. Dasa, a mere boy, daring to challenge a creature of Gronk's size and ferocity. It seemed an impossible task, a suicide mission even for the most seasoned hunter. Dasa's father, his weathered face etched with a mixture of pride and concern, stepped forward, placing a hand on his son's shoulder.
"Dasa, you have a good heart, a warrior spirit, but Gronk is not like any beast you have faced before."
"He is driven by rage, by a hunger that knows no bounds," his father continued, his eyes boring into Dasa's, impressing upon him the gravity of the situation. "You cannot face him alone, not even with Dole by your side." His words, though laced with caution, held a note of unwavering belief in his son's abilities.
"I know, father. I will not underestimate Gronk, but I will not cower in fear either."
He knew the risks, the very real possibility that he might not return from this hunt.
"I have trained for this. Dole and I, we are ready."
His words, though spoken with the bravado of youth, held a ring of truth, a conviction that resonated with his father. Dasa's father, his gaze softening, nodded slowly, a grudging admiration shining in his eyes. He had raised his son to be courageous, to face challenges head-on, and though his heart ached with the thought of the danger his son faced, he knew that there was no dissuading him.
"Then go,"
his father said, his voice thick with emotion.
"May the spirits of our ancestors guide your steps, protect you from harm."
He embraced his son, a silent blessing passing between them. Then Dasa, his head held high, turned towards Dole, his hand resting on the creature's massive head.
"Come, my friend, we have a beast to hunt."
And with that they set off into the jungle, their silhouettes framed against the setting sun, the fate of Boomatheyam resting on their shoulders. The jungle welcomed Dasa and Dole with a stifling embrace. Giant ferns, their fronds heavy with moisture, brushed against their bodies, their edges sharp as blades. The air, thick with humidity and the scent of decaying vegetation, clung to their lungs, each breath a struggle for survival. Dasa, his spear held tight in his grip, navigated the treacherous terrain with the ease of one born to the jungle. He moved with a fluid grace, his senses heightened, his eyes scanning the dense undergrowth for any sign of movement, any hint of danger. Dole, his massive form a juggernaut of muscle and scale, followed close behind. He moved with surprising agility for his size, his powerful legs carrying him effortlessly over fallen logs and through tangled vines. His golden eyes, sharp as shards of amber, missed nothing, their gaze sweeping over the jungle floor, ever alert for prey or predator. The jungle, a symphony of sounds both beautiful and terrifying, enveloped them. The air vibrated with the calls of unseen creatures, the rasping cries of insects, the shrill calls of birds hidden within the canopy. The ground beneath their feet teemed with life, a constant rustling and movement that spoke of a world teeming with both beauty and danger. Dasa, his senses overwhelmed by the intensity of the jungle, felt a primal fear coil in his gut. This was not the familiar hunting ground of his people, the outskirts of the village where they hunted for food and sport. This was the heart of the jungle, a place of ancient magic and untold dangers. Dole, however, seemed unfazed by the oppressive atmosphere. He moved with an eagerness that bordered on recklessness, his massive head swaying from side to side, his nostrils flaring as he inhaled the intoxicating scents of the jungle. He stopped every few paces, his tail thrashing against the undergrowth, his massive head dipping low to the ground as he investigated every rustle of leaves, every snapping twig. Dasa, his hand resting on Dole's flank, felt the creature's excitement, the raw primal energy that pulsed beneath his scales.
Easy, my friend. We are not here to chase butterflies. He felt a surge of pride as Dole, at the sound of his voice, lifted his head, his golden eyes meeting Dasa's with an intensity that sent a shiver down his spine. Dole, despite his eagerness, seemed to understand the gravity of their mission. He fell into step beside Dasa, his movements more controlled, his gaze focused on the path ahead. Yet Dasa could still sense the barely contained energy that vibrated within the creature, the thrill of the hunt coursing through his veins. They continued their trek through the emerald labyrinth, the jungle closing in around them, swallowing the sunlight, casting long, eerie shadows that danced and twisted like phantoms in the fading light. The air grew heavy with moisture, the humidity pressing down on them like a physical weight. The jungle seemed to whisper secrets, ancient and forgotten, as they moved deeper into its heart.
As the sun began its slow descent, casting long, golden rays that pierced the dense canopy, they reached a clearing. A wide expanse of trampled ferns and broken branches, it was a stark reminder that they were not alone in this primeval world.
What is it, my friend? Dasa, his hand tightening on his spear, scanned the clearing, his eyes searching for any sign of Gronk, any trace of the monstrous Tyrannosaurus Rex that had instilled such fear in the hearts of his people. But the clearing was empty, eerily silent save for the incessant drone of insects. Dole, his head held high, his nostrils flaring, sniffed the air. A low growl rumbled in his chest, a sound that sent a shiver down Dasa's spine. It was not the growl of excitement, the thrill of the chase that Dasa was accustomed to. This was a primal sound, a warning, a challenge. "What is it, my friend?" Dasa whispered, his voice barely a murmur in the stillness of the clearing. He trusted Dole's instincts, knew that the creature could sense things that were beyond the reach of human perception. Dole, his gaze fixed on a point in the dense undergrowth, let out another growl, this one deeper, more insistent. He took a step forward, his massive body tense, his tail lashing back and forth, a clear sign of agitation. Dasa, his heart pounding in his chest, followed Dole's gaze. He could see nothing, but he could feel it, a presence, dark and menacing, lurking just beyond the veil of the jungle. The air grew heavy, the silence broken only by the frantic beating of his own heart. They were not alone.
A tremor of anticipation coursed through Dasa. The air, heavy with the musk of predator and prey, crackled with a palpable tension. Dole, his senses keener than any human's, had caught the scent, a faint trace on the wind that spoke of their quarry's proximity. It was a smell that ignited a primal instinct within Dasa, a thrill that coursed through his veins like a jolt of lightning. They moved with a newfound urgency, their previous caution replaced by a focused determination.